Welcome to this quick 15-minute art therapy session on how to sit with your own anxiety. The hardest part is over, you've already shown up. You don't need anything fancy for this, just paper and pens of whatever colors you have. And let's jump right in to reflect on our anxiety. If your anxiety was your pet, what kind of animal would it be? Have a think of the last time you felt anxious and what it felt like coming up in your body. Did it feel like a fluttering or maybe a splashing around of like a fish on land? Did it feel like a very anxious little puppy with its tail between its legs? Did it feel like it gripped you like a python might? Maybe it felt like it had claws and talons, that it gripped inside your heart or in your guts or in your neck or on your shoulders. Did it feel very big or small? To start out with, you can ask yourself how much of the page it took up, and the page being you and your body. And then you can start with picking a color for the feeling. What kind of feeling did it bring up? For me, it brings up fluttery, kind of brown wings, like a hummingbird or something, with a lot of movement. My anxiety has a lot of movement, so I'm just gonna start with drawing movement and making it brown. And I'm giving myself full permission to not know what the hell I'm drawing. It's a symbol. It doesn't have to look like any animal that already exists. But I know what color it is and what texture it is and how much movement it has and how much space it takes up on the page. I definitely feel it in my chest when I get anxious, so I've kind of put it in the chest area of the page intuitively. I'm letting the movement of my hand kind of mimic the movement of anxiety, the kind of fluttery feeling it has for me. And it's definitely brown, murky. And they feel like wings to me, so I'm kind of going to make my anxiety pet have wings. And it's so powerful to draw your anxiety as a symbol or as a pet that follows you along, because it helps you identify with it in a less personal way. It doesn't take over, and it's allowed to be there rather than you pushing it away. You're giving it the space to exist and to be a part of you, even though it's not a pleasant feeling. But it's empowering to not push it away, to invite it onto your art page, let it exist within you without you giving it the power to control your life. You're allowing yourself to feel it without it crippling you. So I've got the wings, and I definitely think it has teeth as well, like a kind of nightmare moth maybe. And remember, these are symbols. They don't have to look realistic. Give yourself permission to draw your symbols. Just let it be for you. It's not for anybody else. You don't have to show this work to anybody else. This is for you to realize that your anxiety is maybe a bit of a vampire moth. And it's this cute little pet that you drag around with you kind of all the time. I definitely feel like it has many, many talons. So these are my symbols for talons, and that's fine. It's giving me a sense of relief to identify how it feels. It really feels like it clings onto you and flutters around you. I'm gonna just use lines to indicate all the movement. The anxiety flutters. And it's not about creating beautiful art right now. This is giving the ugly parts of you, or the parts of yourself that you resist, permission to be. And as soon as you relinquish some of that resistance and allow those feelings, which have evolved to protect you, they come from somewhere. Allow those feelings to be present and put yourself in the driving seat to make an informed decision on what you want to do next. My anxiety moth is so big that it comes off the page. Maybe yours does too. Maybe yours isn't a moth at all. Maybe it's gripping you in a more kind of choking way, like a python might. But mine definitely, my little anxiety pet, maybe it's a swarm of these guys actually. It's like a grouchy, fluttering moth. I feel it in my chest and shoulders and like in my heart space when I get anxiety. And she usually likes to show up when I think about the future and I feel like I don't have a plan or I don't have things figured out. She likes to come in with a feeling of powerlessness, and she's panicked. She's like a mama bee. She wants to protect me. So ask yourself what your creature wants from you. What does your creature want for you? And when does yours show up for you? What kind of background does your anxiety like to show up in? Does it happen when certain events in your life transpire? Or does it come along with certain thoughts? Is there a lot of movement in that backdrop? Does your anxiety pet create a lot of movement in you? Do you instantly try to fix it in order to not feel it? Or do you get completely sucked in and overwhelmed? So it's time to draw your background. Think about if there's a lot of movement, a lot of lines in there, if it has a huge ripple effect to your anxiety or not. Maybe it completely messes with your whole day and your whole vibe, and you can draw some lines to represent how frustrating that is. Maybe your anxiety is really overwhelming and your background is just a flood of water or other emotions. Maybe your anxiety is motivating. Maybe it's the only way you know how to motivate yourself. Ask yourself which part of you is attached to this pet. Even though it's uncomfortable, it serves a purpose. There's a part of you that is holding on to it. What part of you is attached to your anxiety? And what part of you is resisting your anxiety? What texture would you give your anxiety? Is it smooth? Is it rough? Is it detailed? Does it require a big or a small marker? Does your anxiety completely block out other feelings? Does your anxiety completely take over your thoughts? So this is my anxiety, and it's got talons and wings, and it kind of radiates webs. Notice how you feel about your own anxiety. How do you feel about your pet? How do you feel about this drawing? Do you wish it was different in some way? Do you wish you didn't have it? Which part of you is attached to it? Which part of you needs it? And what can you thank your anxiety for? Drawing your anxiety as a pet is a really great way to discover the emotion and to sit with it. Notice that the process of drawing was actually very peaceful and meditative, and you were able to tap into the anxiety without it taking over. And it lets you hold space for the parts of yourself that you may not be comfortable with. And I hope it gave you a little bit of freedom to express and experience yourself. The point of art therapy is to give you more clarity on your feelings and to do it through symbols. So not using your words and your thoughts and things that you would get from traditional talk therapy. This really lets you symbolize and gain insight in a more intuitive way, like a more feeling kind of way, and really helps you sit with your feelings, basically. So thank you so much for showing up for yourself today for this art therapy session on anxiety.